Talk first a bit. We're gonna, I'll make a beat from scratch for you, and I'll talk about, what I'm trying to achieve when I'm starting off with the drum beat. And I think I'll start with some of the common instruments that are really common. So I think some of you guys hopefully recognize this guy here. This to me is an infamous drum machine. It's got so much, so much usage. It's a classic, the Lindrum. So I'm a huge Lindrum fan, and I'm using the LD Core Kit from the library, from the stock library. I've done some edits to it that I'll show you. So that's definitely a big part of my sound. I'll show you what I like to tweak. I never really used the Lindrum toms because over here we have the Simmons toms. So, to me, these Simmons, I love the way they look. Such a cool looking drum. You love them or you hate them. When you hear them, they can be kind of, pretty aggressive, pretty off kilter, but, with the right reverb, I think you guys might hear its usages and how it can sound. Another common thing that I'm going to point out that we're going to use, now I had to go out of this core library to get a non-Lin reverb, but this AMS, the RMX16, has a very special reverb. It's commonly confused with a gated reverb, but it's not, and I have one that I'll show you guys, so we'll compare the differences. And then, I have to mention, there's one more drum machine that's really common. If you're not using a Lindrum, oh, not that DMX, this DMX. There we go. So that's the rapper. This is the drum machine. So the DMX is a huge, big part in hip hop, dance, boogie, and so on. So funny thing is these drum machines are like 12-bit, 8-bit, and when you stretch samples down, the way they crunch. Let me go into Ableton and I'll show you that. So there we go. I lost my top-down camera, so I don't know if I need it, but I'm hitting my push right now, and you can see I'm triggering the LD Core Kit. There we go. So I've customized the Core Kit a couple things. I've just removed some of the macros I don't use and given myself some macros that I use every day because I use this kit a lot. This snare to me and this kick needs to go down. There we go. So it's funny. Every song I do, it goes down a little lower, a little lower. I'll be an octave down next year. But to me, that's the sound that I just recognize and I want to hear. There we go. Versus up there, that just sounds high to me, right? Another thing for me, the hats. I want decay control. We're going to have some fun with that. I got pitch control. So really, those are the things that I've added to the kit. But I've also, because it's 80s, we want some vibe, bit of compression, and drum bus. If you guys haven't checked out drum bus, like, the difference, it's not a very subtle plugin. To me, I use it very lightly, and it gives me a lot of color, a lot of warmth. So I've been using that a lot on, not just drums, synths. Try it on analog or something like that, too, if you get a chance. So that's what we got going on with our main kit. And over here, I got my Simmons sounds. There we go. So what I mean, some people hate those sounds, but I love them. And I'll show you what really brings them to life. And that's that reverb I'm talking about. So a non-limb reverb. Let's crank that up. There we go. So I'm going to go monitor in so I can do this from my keyboard. Just show you some of the parameters. If I exaggerate this, there we go. There we go.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah.
You said this was stock, right? The LD. So if I go into my Ableton right now and look up Kit Core LD, is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yes. It's in drums.
Yeah.
There's two. You can get one in the core library. That guy there.
I'm just not used to seeing the interface. I'm just making sure it's the same sounds.
Oh, I should mention I edited mine a bit, and I went and like colored my channels. So you know what I could do is I could drop this little edit. It's just a couple changes, couple tweaks to the preset. I could drop this on the user group page or something tomorrow if anybody wants access to it. So how about when the beat comes out, if it sounds good at the end, then you guys can shoot me an email, be like, yeah, share that rack that came out all right. So so on. So I'll bring back to the Lindrum kit. Here's the snare. There we go. I'm just the only reason I'm going monitor in is so I can tweak these parameters. There we go. Exaggerate it a bit. And it's that reverb it's not a gate. It doesn't just stop. It almost whips. Like it whips. It has like it gets louder and then it stops. There we go. So I find that.
What's inside that rack? What
There we go.
reverb exactly?
Unfortunately, I wanted to keep everything in the box from stock, and this one I went outside. There we go. I hit it. That's Valtalla Vintage Verb. But I'm gonna hunt down. I think you know, I like to keep everything within live. I can do this in live. I just got to find an IR. Maybe use the convolution reverb. Get a good you know, if I could get that original one that we were looking at there. Get someone to IR that, the non-lin. That's the sound. That's the Prince sound. That's the sound that so many bands used, and it's just a great drum thickener. So there we go. I'm gonna switch this back to on, and then I'll turn that on. And then I have another reverb here. It's funny. Me and one of my Vancouver UG friends, we joke about how good Ballad Reverb is. The very first preset, and it's probably the first preset for a reason. This one's a great one. So I think on some of my on some of my drum sounds, I'm going to show you how you can do that. I have my sends routed to my sends there. So if anybody hasn't done that, remind me, maybe in the question, I can show you how to do that. But I have two reverbs. So I have one that's kind of like, you know, the non-lin, the gated thing, and one that has a tail, a very 80s, a very, you know, one that could get overboard. So I'm using it sparingly on the sounds that I want, and so on. So let's get started. I think, you know, this might seem a little backwards, but I you know, when I'm working on drums, I used to just kind of, to me, I felt like it was a hindsight. I'm just getting a metronome going and I'm jumping to the piano. I'm trying to get something going. And then later on, I realized there's maybe a reason for it, is because I like, even though this is programmed music, I like all my sounds to interact. And I want to start my drums, but then I want to get a bass, and I want to come back to them with the vocals and the bass soloed and look for where those toms happen or the moments where it really can do something. And I also want to think about the drums' role in the band to guide me along, to kind of tell me where the sections are changing. And it's hard to do that with like a 1-bar clip, right? So I'm going to do that with a couple 1-bar clips and show a way that I've been doing it, that I've been doing this a couple times. It gets me pretty far. It gives me room to craft it later. And to give you an example, I was practicing this yesterday and today, and my writing partner's like, save that. Can you save that? I'm going to write to that, save that. So I have 3 different Lin drum ideas that are all slightly different that started from this. So
Kevin, are you saying that you like to make a skeleton first and flesh it out later?
Exactly. I like the way you put it. Yeah. I'll know the details a bit more, and I like it all to form together. You know, a food analogy for you is like eating tapas. I like to just try a bit of everything and take it all in instead of like one course. And I'm not methodical like that. So I guess that's personality. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different way. But for me, starting backwards like this, like, how about, I'm going to take this back a little bit. I left that a little higher than I wanted. So let me just towel that back. There we go. I won't keep the metronome on for too long, but just kind of so I can try out some, maybe. There we go. So there's kind of an idea. I'm thinking backwards. I'm thinking of those moments, those fills, and I'm using MIDI capture. There we go. So MIDI capture is a great little tool to do things like that. Especially, you know, sometimes it doesn't work, but I think one of the things is I'm going to get 2 of these and then edit them. And I'm not just going to quantize them. Like you hear my beats are pretty, you know, they're not loose, but I still don't want to just quantize 100% anything. I want to try to keep some groove to things like that. So another one, let's try one without the metronome. There we go. Because when you don't do that, you don't follow with the 1. You might trick Ableton, and Ableton, you're not giving it a sense of time. You notice that Ableton's got a hard job to be like, what is that? What did you just play? And I wanted to do that because I think I used to just jump at quantizing everything. Like I would quantize this, but really, when you do something off time, your timing is more like water, right? I think drummers, you don't just play one note off time. You play a series and then you speed up. So I like to treat my my MIDI warp handles. I like to kind of tighten things up a little bit, preserve some of the late notes that might be on purpose, and basically doing that, like doing these little moves and trying to tighten things on average, I will have some notes that are late on purpose. There we go. So I think, let's try this. I don't know if I have that extra note. There we go. And you can see there's some late, there's some early. Teaming that up with using quantize at 50%. There we go. I have some selected notes. So if I want to quantize all of those, just make sure they're not quantized. And let's give it a Control U. So quantizing at 50% is just, it's tightening. It's helping me out, but it's not going to remove that. And if it's really loose, you can just do it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times. So I like to do that to keep some human emotions. This is going to be pretty robotic, but just so I know, I feel better when it's not 100% quantized, you know what I mean? So let's get these velocities up because I'm going to program some. We did some recording, we did some capture. Let's team that up with some recording. So getting those volumes, those velocities up. And then, like I said, working backwards. Here's just, probably where most people start. How many songs, how many producers open up the project and do something like that? This is the most standard move. There we go. There we go. So let's mess with that. Let's just rush one kick drum on the tu and on the last 16th note. So that's a little jagged. There we go. So that's going to be a little more interesting. And then I have these little tags and a main beat, right? There we go. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to string these together. But right now I have, to me, I think that's an 8-bar or a 16-bar pattern, but the first pattern is filling most of the bars. And then I have these fills or these different things to do different. And this is where I think I might sway from how a lot of people work on drums. I'm adding another MIDI channel and piping it to my kit. Make sure you do that and pick the kit, the first option there. And what you have now is a second channel talking to the first channel. So in a live situation, if I program my hats here, I could trigger them separately and I could still go in and deal with the volume there, but I like to see it on its own channel. Let's name that hats, actually. And I'm actually going to double this now because I've set it all up. There we go. We're not going to use four hats.
That's cool because that's how you'd record live drums almost too on their different mics, right?
Totally. And I think, when you talk about drum workflow, a lot of people like to have their snares and their kicks separated so they can EQ them separately. We still have that there. So we can still do that in the rack, but we then have the MIDI separately. So we can edit the MIDI and not get the notes. If we need to see them together to look at how they match, this new feature of being able to see 2 MIDI clips, that's amazing. So we can just shift click and see 2. So I can program my hats if I click on my hats row. But so that's awesome. I'm going to program some hats, just some normal hats really quickly because I think, when I do these, there's always a couple people that are coming from an intro standpoint and they're afraid to say it. So, we shouldn't be ashamed. I'm just going to do some simple. Let's talk about drawing drums really quickly. And I know you drummers, you already know this. So when I draw this in, it's going to annoy you. And you see, let's just let everybody hear what it sounds like to not have groove. And then let's counteract that with something better. So this is going to be kind of obnoxious, right? I have decay control, that's going to help a bit. There we go. But, because so many people think of timing and groove, we just got to remind people that volumes and groove is one thing. And also when you have little things repeating, I don't need to Control D that. I can just kind of repeat that. Right? So what I want to do with this, and with the rest of these, let's say we have one for rim. Let's do Cabasa. And last one will be clap. And this is something that I think, to me, is a recipe for a good beat, is having things repeating at different lengths. Like for instance, to get a long 8 or 16 bar, let's make our clap track 8 bars long. And let's go to clap. There we go. There's that 80s clap. I'm putting that on the last. We'll draw that up. When you use your pen tool, drag up, and you can change the velocity there. So let's make that, pretty decent clap, but just one in the whole 4 bars. And at the end of bar 8, there's the backbeat, count 4. Let's do 4. There we go. So just for people that are new, reminder, you can drag up and down, change your velocities. B is what I'm using to toggle the draw tool on and off. But when you're in the cursor tool, holding Alt, you can do it. When you have multiple ones, try selecting them using the line control down there. So there's a couple tips for people getting new at editing MIDI and working with that. But I think a clap like that's going to help me remember when bar 8 is, when the sections should change. Our hats, I want to do something different. Let's take one of these hats and let's take one of these hats and make it 6 steps long. So we're getting some breathing. So I'm not going to play this, but I think Mason or some of the drummers, some of the other percussionists know where I'm going. They see where I'm going here, where I'm thinking. So I want you guys to kind of get this all together as like, well, why is it uneven? Why would he do that? There we go. So in this one, the rim shot, I've labeled it rim. So let's put rim. I think my rim's talking to this echo. There we go, which is like some weird timing already. So it's going to give me something interesting. And maybe the rim should communicate with something. I like it when like you kind of get like rim and maybe that. There we go. We'll get some of that and another rim. There we go. Do I have a groove? Yeah, I do have a groove selected. So one of them is going to get a bit of swing, where everything else is going to be really straight. That rim shot. Hopefully we'll give that a bit of swing. There we go. And that is, let's see, that one, we're going to make it, let's make it a bar plus an extra beat. There we go. There's room for one more cowbell. There we go. More cowbell. Cool. Dad joke for you. That's a rim shot, 7 steps. Let's go to our cabasa and let's do something, or that was 5 steps. Let's do something with 7 steps. So there's four beats. Let's add 2 extra beats. So we have 7 beats. And that, I think if you do the math, that's going to not, repeat as often. It's going to come in on a weird time and breathe a little. So the idea is, for those of you guys who haven't guessed yet, I'm getting into Polymeter. Cross Rhythms, Polyrhythm was inspired by one of my UG co-hosts that was showing some of this stuff last week, and I've been messing with it. It's a lot of fun. So I think my cabasa, where is it? Right there. Let's do something, maybe to mirror what we were doing in some of the other sounds. I'm going to do these like 16th note runs with different volumes. So again, we'll go like select those, control. We'll make some fade in out. Let's grab these ones and make them fade in. There we go. There we go. And what else? What else can I do? Well, I think that's it. Let's hear how it sounds now. So when I launch this first one here, pay attention to the clap, the cabasa, so on. You can see that they're all going to repeat at different lengths. When I look at them all, you can kind of see where they meet up. So I find this is a cool thing that kind of teaches me where things might happen. So to me, it's not one bar clip, but it's a bunch of short clips that are creating a long passage of drums. So that's step one. And I'm patient with myself. I've seen people spend 45 minutes on a kick drum. So I know I'm taking time, but I've seen people literally sample a kick drum and then look for a similar sample that has the same and then EQ it to be the same to add it back onto itself. And I thought, I'm the sort of guy that's like, I'll turn up the volume to get that sound louder. So, I'm a bit simpler. This is me taking my time to program something that has a bit of randomness. I'm not, knowing where everything happens, and it allows me to kind of react. But I think to take this to the next level, let's do some stuff. I want to use my tags or my fills. Let's use like that guy there and that guy there. And a lot of the next magic's going to happen to the left of the note section and the detail and the info view. So over in the launch mode and the envelopes, there's a lot of cool stuff to do. Actually, Mason was in the envelope, so I'm going to double up on some of what he was doing. Let's start with the launch. So here, how about giving this guy 7 bars and then telling it to play other, meaning any of the other clips. There we go, play again. And then I'll do these 2 together because they just need to tell it to go to the first clip. And they're gonna go for a bar, that's it. But they just wanna go to the first clip and play again. Play again. And now when I launch the first one, it's flashing. I'm not gonna play it out, but on bar 8, it would go back to the fill, back to itself. And I like to do stuff like that. Like for instance, my hi-hats here, they're not a bar long. Control 1, let's add a little, let's dupe this one here. Control 1 and 2, I'm just using that to change my grid. I wanna kind of give you a little trill. There we go. little trill for the thrills, right? So we're sneaking that in there, and I don't want that to happen all the time. I used to work too detailed and then loop it, and it's just, when you do something really cool, you want to use it sparingly. So I think maybe this one, let's give us 3 bars of that, or let's give this 3 bars and 3 beats, or 2 beats. So half of a bar, 3.5 bars. Go to the next one, next clip, play again. And this one, we'll get it to play for previous clip, play again. And I think I don't want a full bar. I just want 2 beats, 0 bars. There we go. So that's what these counters are. That's exactly 2 quarter notes. This is 16th note, so I don't want that extra 16th note. So if I did my math correctly, those 2 should add up to a 4-bar piece, and that one should come in at the end. And that's it. So that's a couple follow action things. Let's test that out. We'll check out this one on bar 4. 3, 2, 3, 4, 4. There we go. So we hear that one come in there, and then it'll launch back to that one. And then let's give it some more motion. So the next one, let's go over here. So although I have MIDI piped to this main kit, all of the instruments are in this main kit. So that's something that, you know, you can get confused when you work this way, but I remind myself that. And I think that, meaning if I wanted to automate, you know, I want to punch out a couple snares to that ballad reverb and kind of do some reverb accents, I like to call them. So to do that, because it's on this clip and this is only a bar long, it just reminds me, I always have to slow down because there's a lot of boxes to mix it up, but it reminds me that if I wanted to, first I just click my decay. There we go. So that my automation will follow me. That's hats, LD core hats decay. If I wanted to unlink this, then I can change the length of this parameter that's separate from this length. So although this bar will repeat 1 bar, 1 bar, my automation for the hats can be 8 bars or something like that. So how about our hats are going at 6 steps? Let's team that with 5 steps. So 5, like 8 notes, or let's see, that's quarter notes. That's, there we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do something like that. So that's going to be a little weird. And I think, oh, you know what? I want to modulate. Sorry, I want to do modulation this time and not automation. Hang on, if you're confused, I think when you see this, it will kind of explain that, and it'll be a really easy way. But right off the bat, when I do that, I'm set to 100% instead of a value. So notice that. Let's just get some different values. And remember, this is going to be for my hat. There's 5 16th notes. There we go. There's my hats. There we go. And I always, you know, I do that so much. Every time I forget, I did it linked, didn't I? So let's fix that. Let's make it unlinked, and let's fix my pattern of my bar back. I knew I was going to do that. So a lot of those boxes look the same. So my pattern's now a bar, but the hi-hat is moving at a different rate. And I think I want to just exaggerate some of those. Let's get some a bit lower and some a bit higher. There we go, just so we can hear it. There we go. There we go. So I exaggerated, made some really short, but you get the idea. You see the value jumping around in there. That allows me to create little subtle motions. Should be a lot more subtle than this, maybe like little subtle things, but still grab that knob and move it and automate it. I might still want to move the whole thing as a whole to get kind of like a verse tighter. Maybe open it up in the chorus or something like that. And it just gives me a place to breathe. So that's one example of unlinked automation. The other one's going to be really simple. I said snare. I want to take that snare and use that ballad reverb. So if I slow down, hit the right box this time, 8 bars for my, automation, not modulation. This time I'm going to do automation because I want the value to shoot up. So here is my mixer send for my ballad reverb. The last, bar 4 again. It's an important snare, that last one. Bar 8/4, let's give that one a bit more. So let's test that out now. Cool. Oh yeah, and I got some mute soloing going on. So let me just clear these, get everything back. There we go. stop all. Yeah, so that's kind of, I just wanted to record it over really quickly because I think people do the same stuff in this window. But I kind of get a kick out of programming it. Mason, you said modular. This kind of reminds me of like DAWless. I could never go DAWless. I don't know how people can do that, but I like to embrace some of those techniques and some of the random sample and hold and create like a little bed like that. So I think a lot of my songs will start there. And just to give you an idea, maybe a song like that with a bigger non-lin, there we go, or something like that. Let's increase that ballad reverb and so on. And maybe we want to do some like, let's go session view. Wrong. Maybe a bass line is what I'm feeling. So, definitely when I go to a funkier place, I'm thinking of instruments to match like these synth brass, analog synth bass. Something like that. Or maybe I'll take some of that reverb down and match it with a piano. And it's kind of weird to think about that, but ballads in the 80s had some strong drums like this. What can I play? And usually, I'll take a day off from the drums. I'll get them leading me, setting the style, and I'll give them a bit more love than I used to because it helps me think of other ideas. I hear those stabs, I hear those hits, and it makes me react with what I'm doing with the bass or with another instrument and so on. So, and I think I'll mention now too that, this is an 80s beat. But you could totally change this to an 808 or 909 or apply some of the stuff to whatever drums that you're feeling, and use, you have a different set of instruments that you like or different effects, maybe the glitchy, the beat repeats, or trillin' hats and so on. So I was thinking about this, and I built one for a friend that had like different arpeggiator rates for like the hi-hat trills for like the trap guys. And you can kind of use these techniques in many different ways to generate and do some different stuff. So I love it when you take away the main beat and play just the rhythm, and give that to an audience. And after a while of that, they don't really know where the one is anymore until you do, until you drop your main beat on top of it. So I hope that was fun. What do you guys think?